So this is the first in our What If series, and this is where you and I get to play with possibilities a little bit. And these are all actually very doable things that we're going to be discussing each week, but they're bound by, well, in our language, we look at little cognitive blinders, which I'll ask you to explain in just a second, but also just sort of the way things have always been done. So we'd like to just put those aside for a little bit and all the barriers that we talk about in other ways and just think about possibilities. So the very first what if I'd like to do came out of a conversation we had on email this morning, and it's about what if we did teachers, so this is school teachers, sick days. So the sick days that they have in a school year a little bit different, or if we did them completely different. And so what I had told you about was a story. That's true. There's a school in The Hague, and I told you about this because you were saying about talking with the principal, so concerned about teacher stress and stress leave. And I told you about a neat way I saw or knew about it done in a school that I always thought if we could get this everywhere, how much would this change things for teachers as part of Self-Reg and thinking into the long-term step 5 in particular in restoration. So what they do is each teacher was assigned they had their supply teacher, their substitute teacher assigned to them, and it was a full-time staff member. So that person was a secure position in the school, and they each had 2 or 3 teachers they were attached to, and they spent time in that classroom and, understanding the routines, but also, building relationships and things. And so whenever the teacher was sick, that was who the supply was, wherever possible. But the neat thing that was kind of special, I thought, was every teacher had 3 days a year that were leave days. This wasn't extra vacation. This was their days. The only rule was they weren't allowed to come into the school, and they really weren't supposed to work. The supply teacher would go in and take over, and it had been long planned ahead of time. And the teachers would take these as their days for their own well-being, whatever it was that they needed in any way. And it took away the stigma of us needing mental health days, because I always felt I've had days I needed a mental health day, and you've got to call and say I've got a fever, and then you're dealing with the discrepancy of having all that inner turmoil around having you need the day and you don't know why, you just do. And she said that she almost had no sick days. She said the sick days just went down like crazy and the morale went up. So what if we did things differently?
So I have so many ways to respond. My first response is, what if we all did Self-Reg?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were all working in Self-Reg havens. Your story reminds me of, I found it intriguing, exciting, and endlessly frustrating to work with government.
Yeah.
And your story reminded me of a conversation I once had with the Minister of Education. And I won't say where or let alone who. And this minister asked me, loved the idea, what's the one thing I could do tomorrow to become a Self-Reg haven?
Wow.
Yeah, so the question was so absurd that, so I said jokingly, buy every school a cappuccino machine.
Wow.
So this minister responded, what a fabulous idea. It just gets better and better. So I was back in this particular province, I don't know, a year later, and I had a teacher come up to me and say, I just have to thank you. You did such a wonderful...
Kidding.
Nope.
Because they all got cappuccino machines?
She said, I just love my espresso.
Well, if you are from that province, please don't share.
You owe it to me.
Isn't that funny?
But talk about... losing sight of the people that are working here. Absolutely. And how hard it is, and how we really can't talk about the well-being of our students without talking about the well-being of our custodians and our bus drivers and our receptionists.
Absolutely. And I think we know that the Bell Talk has done a lot of good for getting, and other organizations and other movements have done a lot of, what I guess they call stigma busting, and out there about, there's more openness talking about mental health. But we need to take action, and that's why I think everybody should do Self-Reg. But I also think we can, as schools, and if there are creative ways that you can do this to reduce, to actually create systems that are nurturing for our people. When you are a teacher and you are you're high tension, low energy, you're overstressed, You are not a bad person. You're not a bad teacher. You
Yeah.
need a break. Sometimes that happens within a day, that you need a break. And we have to build these into our systems, find the ways, break down whatever barriers there are to take care of our teachers, to take care of our assistants, our principals, our staff, so that they can be the best there are for the kids. And we've got to, the stigma goes with those as well. And I think that's part of it. It's removing that taking a mental, needing to get a little bit of mental health or a little bit of self-reg is anything different than having to go home because you have strep throat. It's part of us being aware of what we need, being able to take care of ourselves. And I do not think you will find people taking advantage of it. And know that if it looks like it, it just tells you that they really needed this. So there's something that we can do in this what if.
Yep. The nice thing about being in Canada is that we actually are acting on this now.
Yeah, we're beginning to see it happen. We absolutely are.